Okay, so I want to show you real quick how to um, add transform adjustments to your image, as well as showing you how to crop in different ways. So the first thing you want to do is select your clip. So make sure you select the clip. We're going to be working with this clip here. Actually, let's choose another one. Let's choose something more obvious. This one. Yeah, let's use this one. Just because I want to see if I can straighten this line right here. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is select your clip. Now select your, go to your inspector. So if you don't see this window, this is your inspector. Make sure you click on this button here. This is your inspector button. So click on Command 4. That's your shortcut. And you want to click here where it says show. Now there's different parameters for the transform. So all of these are considered part of the transform properties. Okay. Now, one thing I always use when I'm ever cropping or correcting or just leveling out a shot is I use this what's called a horizon. So we always use this one that's title safe zones. And we use these for like lower thirds for the snipes to know if it's gonna be viewable with every screen. However, for this time we're gonna be using this one that where it says here show horizon. Okay, so click on that. Let's just hide this one. Okay, so the first one is position. So just like a mathematical grid, you can do your negative axis and negative x-axis, so it's left, and then positive would be right. And then you have your up, which is positive, and then negative, which is down. Okay, so let's reset that. And you also have your rotation. So here you can rotate it. I don't know why Final Cut inverts it, but negative is actually going counterclockwise. I'm sorry, clockwise. And then positive numbers is counterclockwise. Okay, and you also have your scale, so let's do that. Now you have different types of scale. So you have your X scale, which is, you can sort of guess what it means. You're scaling only in that axis. So you can see that, you can see this like an X-axis, and this is a Y-axis. So you can do X, and then you can also do Y. You can squeeze or you can expand. Now, instead of doing this and kind of like copying and pasting, that's what this is for. So if you scale all of them together, it maintains the same image. It's just making it bigger or smaller. So that's what the scale all for is for. So you can see the percentage. I think the max is 400. If I think you need it higher, you can type it in. It's just a little quick cheat. So like if you're trying to make it bigger than 400%, just know that you can make it bigger. Okay. Now, the next one is anchor. Now the anchor is useful because it changes the position of where you want your scaling to happen. So right now the scaling, notice that it scales in the middle of the image. However, if I choose the anchor, I can move it to the left side of the image. I can actually scale from that position. So notice how it's scaling. It doesn't scale from the middle, scaling from the left. And same thing if I bring it down to this corner here, you can see how it scales using that corner. So this anchor is pretty useful, especially when you're trying to level something. So that we're gonna go ahead and try to do that right now. So let's reset everything. Now what I'm gonna do is also show a different tool. So right now we've just been using the inspector window. You can also make these adjustments using this viewer. So click here where you have this little little icon here. Click on that. You can also select it here. So if you don't see it here for some reason, you can also select it here. Okay, notice how it shows you like different options here. So now let's make this smaller so we can see what's going on, and let's hide this for now. Horizon. So now you have this tool that you can use to move around, so you can see how the position is moving around. Move anywhere it's easier. It might be easier for you. You also have snapping, which is pretty cool. Notice it snaps in the middle right there. And then you also have the scaling. You can do X, you can do Y, you can do proportional, and then you also have rotation. So you can scale and then kind of rotate it. Now, one thing I would say whenever you're rotating an image, let's say that for some reason this is the leveled, this is how you want it. Be careful of clipping because the computer doesn't know whenever you want these black lines. So notice how you have, let me zoom in. Notice how you have these black lines that you don't want. That's gonna show up in the final render. So what you want to do is you want to scale in un poco. So let's scale in un poco. So let's go like this, and you can zoom out a bit so you can see what's going on. So you just want it barely at the edge. You can do like maybe 115. And that's fine. So now whenever you're rendering, you don't see that black line. And just that's something you should keep in mind whenever you're rotating. So now let's actually try to level this. I'm going to use this axis here. Let me turn on my grid, my horizon. And I'm going to use this line as a reference because I can see that's Cricut. Can zoom in. Yeah, that's Cricut. So now let's rotate un poco. So look like something like that. I zoom out. And what I always do is reset the anchor. Now, if I reset the anchor, it won't reset the rotation unless I click all the way up here. So let's click there. And now I want to scale it un poco. So let's scale it just a bit. Sometimes it snaps, sometimes it doesn't. I don't trust the snapping all the time. And that's it. Click done. And fit. So now this line should be not perfectly, but a lot more better than how it was before. But that's the basic use of the transform. So you can select here to use these tools. It might be easier for you. You can also select it here. If you don't see it, if you don't see the transform, you can use a crop, this drop down menu. Now the next one is the crop tool. So let's hide, reset everything. Let's hide this and show this. Now there's different types of cropping. The first one would be the trim. It does exactly what it sounds like. You're basically trimming the image from left to right. And here I'm using the little handles. Trimming left and bottom. You can use that there if it's easier for you. And that's basically all it does, is just trim to however you like it. You can move it around here. You can't rotate, that's one thing. You can't rotate the crop. It's a lot trickier. So now let's reset. Now that's a trim. The next one is a crop. Now the crop, it's a bit different. What you're actually doing is cutting away what you don't want, and you're telling the program to zoom in into this. So notice how I can't change the aspect ratio. Oh, actually I can, but whenever I press done, it zooms in to the actual, it fills the whole screen. So that's what we don't want. So let's click crop and let's reset. So let's say you don't want this. Instead of having you to actually like scale in and rotate it, what you can do is just use this crop tool and crop what you don't want. Let's say I just want to focus on this. Press done, and the computer or the program automatically zooms into what you have cropped. Okay, so that's a crop tool. Okay, the next one is Ken Burns. Now the Ken Burns is what a lot of people use, especially with slideshows. It's very common. Click on Ken Burns and click on this tool, and we'll see how it is. So what Ken Burns does is actually zooms into the cropped image, so you can see how it's gonna start off cropped, and then zoom out, and it's gonna show this whole image. So let's try that. Let's see how it looks like. So let's come from here and press done. Now let me go to the beginning. Now I press play. It's gonna slowly zoom out, even though I'm not zooming out in camera. It's zooming out inside the program. Then that's pretty much it. So that's Ken Burns. Now the speed of the Ken Burns is relative to how long your clip is. So if you have a very short clip, let me zoom in and let's reset this, reset everything. Let's cut here. And let's say we just want to do a Ken Burns for this small clip. So let's do Ken Burns and we want to adjust it. The more exaggerated the Ken Burns, the more noticeable the speed is. So let's move it there. Now we press play. Notice how the zoom happens a lot faster, and it doesn't mean that it's faster time. It just means that there's more ground to cover. So like if I click here and then click on the little crop and then expand this window and play it again, so it's the same timing. Now it feels a lot slower, but that's just because it needs to zoom out less. So it's the same time where it's less zoom. Okay, so now that's Ken Burns, let's trim, let's reset. Now the very last one or different type of crop is by using masks. Now the masks works almost exactly like a crop. However, with masks it's a bit more complex. So now what you can do with some mask is make sure you go to your effects generators, your effects, make sure you select on video and down to masks. Now the first one is called a draw mask. So if you want to literally draw a mask, you can do that. So let's say I only want to show like this button and maybe a piece of this. So what I can do is click on drag and drop the effect first to the clip. Now I can click here, kind of show the buttons, kind of a bit of the lid, and you want to make sure you close the mask or else it won't work. Okay, now you close. And if I zoom in, you can see how that's not a square. It's definitely not a normal mask. It's a more complex mask. So this is useful in case you want to cut something out. It's a bit more tricky when it comes to editing, but it's very useful, so you don't have to take it into Photoshop or anything. Yep, so that's a draw mask. Now notice how once I drag and dropped it into the clip, I now have what's called like an effects panel, so I can turn off and turn on the effect. Same thing with all the crops and transform. Like if I do something real quick, if I zoom in and then rotate it, if I just want to quickly preview it, what I can do is just select it and unselect it. Okay, so you can do that with almost anything. So you can do that with draw mask. And the next one I want to show you is the graduated mask. So just same thing as effect, and you can use this for a lot of applications. You can use this to kind of like fade an image. Maybe you can put like a background, some text here. So that's pretty cool. Let's move that there in the middle, and I can put like an image on top or on the bottom, and I can put some words here if you want to go that route. But a graduated mask is basically a feather. That's really what it is. Okay. Now the very last one I want to show you is the vignette mask. Now the vignette is really popular. They use it with like old films or kind of like looking through a glass or through a telescope. So this is pretty cool. You can control the fall off. I don't think you can control you can control the position. I don't think you can control the size that much, but you can control the position and how much vignette you want. So you can go something like that, make it look more like an old movie. So yeah, that's the basic idea of crop, transform, and using masks. So you can use that for any of your footage.